have one of my emergency stashes here, but you know what? Don't need that right now. Prednisone is a corticosteroid, and for me, my first introduction with prednisone was when I was given a medrol dose pack. With that, it's more of a course of prednisone where you start at a really high dose and then you wean slightly to nothing after like 7 to 8 days. That was back in 2012 when I had a really bad flare, and that was given to me. And then I was on it for a second time a little bit after that, maybe a couple of years later or a year later, and it worked. But then when I did it for the third time, it stopped working. It actually made me feel worse. And you know, with rheumatoid arthritis and any other autoimmune and autoinflammatory forms of arthritis, inflammation is the driving factor as to why a lot of people get irreversible joint damage or other problems. So you really want to tame that wildfire, and that's why prednisone, everyone loves it because it does the trick quickly. And with inflammation, you want to bring that down. And I know a lot of people are into like holistic alternative therapies to bring inflammation down, but let's be honest, even if you take like 5,000 milligrams of turmeric, take 6 a day, sometimes that inflammation, once it's raging like a wildfire, you need something to bring that down, especially if it's going on in your own body with inflammation. So that's why prednisone is a good thing. I remember my acupuncturist that I had seen for about 17 years, he actually retired in the during the pandemic, I found out, which is sad because I've known him since I was diagnosed. But I remember him telling me back, I don't know, maybe it was like 2018 when I was going after my knee surgery and stuff. He had like some type of like arthritic symptoms going on where he had like inflammation out of nowhere and pain, and he saw a rheumatologist. She gave him a 2-week dose of prednisone to take at like 10 milligrams a day or something like that. And then after the 2 weeks was up, his inflammation went away. He went back for the follow-up, and the doctor was like, you know, I don't know what happened here, but your labs and everything look completely normal. That's just one instance where it's like something's going on in your body. Prednisone can zap that away or like just make things calm down, and then you go about your life. And I kind of think about like my own life, and like if I was given prednisone right at the first signs, like when I was diagnosed the first time, maybe things wouldn't have been so bad. But we're not going to get stuck into the what ifs. I really started on like a daily dose of prednisone after my knee replacement, which my surgeon wasn't really too happy about, because after like surgery you kind of want to decrease the risk of infections, but nothing happened luckily. So I started on like 5 milligrams and I was on that for a while, and then I eventually lowered down to 3, eventually lowered down to 2.5, and then eventually I lowered down to 1, 1.5, 2 here and there. So this is from 2016 all the way up until last year, 2021. So I started off at 5, and then I gradually, probably around 2018, 2019, I lowered down to 3, and then 2.5. And then, so for about a year or two, I was at like a 1 milligram, 1.5, sometimes 2, and I would alternate every other day. And so when I wanted to wean off it, at first it was pretty difficult, even at the lowest dose. So that's why my doctor recommended I take it every other day, and then after like a week or two, lower to the next dose. So for a while, I ended up being on 1 milligram. And so I was like, yay for that, because who would think like stopping it, you know, at such a low dose would be hard. But since I was on it for some time, my body needed to get kind of acclimated to everything. Plus I was going through kind of like a situation where I was having like flares here and there, and then I ended up having to go on one of those 2-week things where she put me on 10 milligrams for 1 week and then 5 milligrams the next week, which worked actually a lot better than medrol dose pack. And I have to say, I advocated for myself this time. I told her, I don't want to take a medrol dose pack. It's made me feel worse and it doesn't help me. She suggested this route, which worked beautifully, and it calmed down what I needed to be calmed down, especially in my surgical knee. I was having like some type of swelling in the back of the knee, which I didn't want to have happen, okay? So that was, hooray to that, you know, it helped with the inflammation. And then, you know, I didn't experience any of like the moon face. I experienced moon face on Enbrel. I noticed like my face kind of got puffy on Enbrel. I don't know if that's a thing with that drug, but prednisone, not too much. And then, you know, anxiety a little bit. Yes, sometimes I did feel like a little anxious on prednisone. But again, I think it's also because of the imbalances in my body, hormonal rise, that were also causing that. So I can't necessarily blame that on the prednisone because let's face it, if you have an autoimmune disease, there's an imbalance going on in your body, okay? There just is. And so I know for me, when I've worked with my functional doctor for my, balancing my hormones, everything was pretty good except a couple things were off, which, I mean, surprise, surprise. I mean, I was telling doctors this from like I was 18. I'm like, every time I have my menstrual cycle, I feel worse. Or, a lot of women report this. And I'm sure men have their own hormones in their bodies that, impacts them. But in any case, that's kind of what I experienced on that. I guess I could say that's a bad thing. And then also, it wasn't allowing me to heal from small bacterial overgrowth or candida in my gut as quickly as possible. If you guys have ever had SIBO or candida or any other high bacterial markers in your gut, you know that like it's not an easy thing to get rid of or heal. But, I have been able to do that, but then over time would come back. And with prednisone, it lowers the immune system and also kind of feeds candida too, right? So I was kind of like doing things, it would work, and then I would be on prednisone and it was like a thorn in my side, okay? So that's not necessarily why I stopped it. I just stopped it because it was just for my, highest good, because also, I guess this could be like an ugly thing. When you're on prednisone, you're supposed to go for like a DEXA scan. Yes, I'm in my 30s. I went for a DEXA scan. Usually it's people 15 over, but my doctor that I had at that time, before the one I see now, was very vigilant in like doing like testing and like just for precautionary measures, nothing major. He even had me do like a chest x-ray, cardiogram, like everything. And I really appreciate that about him because he was very thorough, and I love thorough doctors. I like people who just like do the test, work with me to get things done. So he was someone who like really looked after his patients like to a T. Okay, I mean for the most part. I mean he's human too, but for me he had me go do that, and then like in 2018 they found like very 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 mild like osteopenia, nothing major. I mean it can be reversed, but they couldn't really necessarily tell me like if it was because of the prednisone, because like I said I was on Enbrel for several years and Humira and then all these other drugs, so they couldn't tell me if it was from a prednisone or any other drug I've been on, which is could be the case. I mean, Enbrel and Humira and other drugs are pretty strong. Or it could have been just the disease itself, and that's what people forget. Like, people want to blame medications or other things, but the disease can cause a lot of things on its own, especially if you have like widespread inflammation or like damage. Luckily, it can be reversed. So if like you're kind of going through the same thing, like working out, weight-bearing exercises, eating calcium-rich foods, which I have to say, like at one point, I wasn't absorbing my nutrients. No matter how much, healthy foods I was eating and all this stuff, because of my gut bacteria issue and prednisone and some other things. So anyways, I guess when the pandemic came around, it was like a blessing in disguise because I was able to slowly wean off of it. And it's sort of by force because after I had that huge flare in that summer of 2021 in my knee, and I got on that bigger dose of prednisone that I was just talking about at 10 milligrams than 5 for 2 weeks, and it helped. There was word on the street and scientific evidence, and my doctor told me this too, but when you're on prednisone, it can kind of increase your risk for infections of all kinds, even what was going on and what is still going on in the world. And so since I was at such a low dose and I was already alternating days, and sometimes I got to the point where I was only taking it like as needed, like once or twice a week. And I have to say, like, the supplements and things I'm doing alternatively were a big factor in helping me cut out prednisone. If you guys are looking into doing this, I would obviously consult with your prescribing doctor, but try to find, a functional doctor, alternative medicine doctor who can work with your regular rheumatologist and any other doctor who can provide like methods for your own body to be able to wean off this. Before I took the first primary dose of the vaccine, I got off prednisone. And after that first dose, I never started it again. And so my doctor was like, if you were able to get off it, just stay off it. She's like, the patients that I have on it still are those who are at higher doses and can't get off it right now. But she's like, 99% of my other patients are off of it. So I made the decision to just keep an extra stash for emergencies or just like whenever I need it. But yeah, it's been a while. So again, from 2016 to 2022, that's like what, 5-6 years almost. So yeah, And yeah, it was just like, it was like a long journey. And so, like I said, I was put on it after knee surgery to control the inflammation because I was off my methotrexate for a month and a half. And they didn't want like damage to occur. Just because you have surgery or any other procedure doesn't mean your disease stops too, you know? So just because you're in recovery, your disease may not be in recovery. So that's why they gave it to me. But, you know, I don't really have like too many like bad things to say about it. I just know that it was kind of impacting me internally more than externally. You know, you wouldn't be able to tell like I was having like problems on prednisone, where it's like, you know, visual like moon face or like any other like effects like my hair or anything like that. And again, it's hard to tell because I'm taking other things too, you know, that also cause a lot of the same side effects as prednisone too. So yeah, you know, I just want to say, like, a lot of people tend to be like, oh, I don't know why you're taking these toxic medications. If your doctor is saying it will help, just do it. Trust them. And if you have concerns, contact them and ask questions about it. But don't let your inflammation and your pain go so wild that it becomes intense and you're in pain and feeling miserable 24/7, because there is an opportunity out there for you to feel better. And these things are out there for a reason. And prednisone, just like many other drugs, has been around for so long and they know a lot about it. So that should bring some comfort at least. If there's anything going on, you go for your routine blood tests and your checkups, your doctor will be able to pick that up immediately and then you can stop it. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to be on it forever. I mean, I'm living proof of that. So will I ever go back on prednisone? Hopefully not. I mean, I don't know. But right now, I don't want to be in it. So it's not really doing me any good. And I did notice like one thing where like I would still have like little pockets of inflammation even on prednisone. So it wasn't really doing it for me. You know what I mean? It was helping, but it kind of wasn't at the same time. It was actually fueling a lot of the root causes I have at play. That's just my 2 cents about that. And hey, you know, prednisone has helped me when I've needed it. You just have to trust your provider, trust yourself. If you feel like you need to wean off it or whatever, you don't want to be on it anymore, do it the correct way. Don't stop it cold turkey. Don't ever stop anything cold turkey. Talk to your doctor. So yeah, before we go, I wanted to announce the Spoonie Star Supporter of the Week. Here they are. Thank you guys so much for your love and your support. If you haven't seen my previous video about the book submission for Keeping It Real with Arthritis Stories, photo blog and book, make sure to check that out. The link is in the description box below. You guys are all eligible to submit a story if you know anyone in your life who's affected by arthritis indirectly as well, caretakers, spouses, friends, anyone else like a provider, rheumatologist. If you have a kick-ass doctor who wants to submit to this book, share it with them. So all that information and more is in the submission link below, keepingitrealwitharthritisbook.com. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.